Joey Pollari, you played Eric Tanner, the co-captain of the basketball team on American Crime, who becomes embroiled in allegations of sexual assaults at a fellow student at a party. Why don't you talk us through first how you became involved on the show?
The old-fashioned way. I got an audition, got some sides, looked at it, was thrilled to be auditioning for it because I knew the pedigree of the show, and went into audition. And like all projects that you book, I thought I bombed it. I thought it was over for me, but I got called back and met with John Ridley and Michael McDonald, who are just so wonderful. Even from then, were just so wonderful, and did 2 auditions extra, and found out a week later after that. It was very quick.
Okay.
One of the interesting things is how big a role you actually ended up playing in this, but also the importance of it. When did you realize that the role was going to be as important for the show as it was to the subject matter for what was going on in that season?
It's a fantastic question. I think pretty early on, because of the sides, I knew Eric had some sort of involvement with them, even though they were dummy sides. I knew he had some sort of involvement. I knew that there would be an arc for him. But I think when I really knew is when John had talked to me privately, and we had about an hour-long conversation just about kind of what to expect or not expect, what he was keeping me in the dark about, that let me know that, oh, this is going to be a crucial part, especially for audiences, to see the other side when, because Taylor and Eric have no scenes together, to see the opposite from accusation to perpetrator side by side with each other. And I think they deal with that really beautifully.
Yeah, they really do. And, I think it's safe to say that both you and Connor Jessup were really the breakthrough performances from the show and of the season in general. You had a lot of really excellent critical notices that have come through from your performance on the show. Did you pay much attention to the reviews and the acclaim for the show's risky second season?
I don't read that much online. I'm kind of a nomad that way, but I hear things here and there, and the whole cast has been. I've seen some of the episodes. It's really beautiful to see some of the words and some of the articles that have been published about the show. Those are the things that I have seen. Just what kind of the conversation where it's been at has been fascinating. But any of the acclaim is shared with that cast, with my other young castmates, with Connor, with Trevor Jackson, with Angelique Rivera, and with the entire adult cast who were our leaders in that show. It was just absolutely a beautiful experience that way.
So with Eric's feelings and struggles with his identity that we saw, you played that extremely well. And I'm just wondering, did you draw from something personal, or did you talk with people who had gone through similar issues with identity, or coming to terms with the fact that they're gay but not really feeling like they have a gay identity? Where did that come from?
It's funny. I initially thought, oh man, it's got to be about coming out. That's what I initially had thought. But it's interesting how the depth of it is below sexuality, and it's just about masculinity, acceptance, identity, rather than, so to speak, a binary gay sexuality, which I think is what the show treats it as well. So that just happens to sort of line up. But I drew on my own experiences for just growing up in as a man. There's an enormous amount culturally, what you are expected to be, how you're expected to act. I played sports in high school, not that many, but that was not my desired choice. But I know what it's like to be on a team and to want so badly, or to be part of a group of friends. I mean, I went to a new school in my sophomore year of high school, and the amount of pressure was enormous. I thought I didn't really care, and all of a sudden I was enormously self-pressuring into what I needed to be, or identity. And that was really, and also what is key for Eric is the deep need to be accepted by his family. And I think that's just universal. No matter if you've got a great family or not so great one, it is a universal experience to want to be loved, and at the same time as wanting to be loved, pushing it away as fast as it comes, which is Eric throughout the entire season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, the prevailing theme, especially for your character, was this exploration of masculinity and aggression, and the prevailing idea that many young men have to or are expected to behave in a certain way, especially sportsmen. It's very much in the spotlight right now with the Brock Turner story that's really making headlines. Was the decision to make Eric so aggressive and so internally angry, where did that particular trait come from? Was there a lot of discussion about that?
There wasn't much discussion, but it seemed like the right instinct. Sometimes I read things and it's, just everything about him, story-wise, was contained. Is trying to hold the story in, trying to hold himself in, trying to hold who he is in. And so a lot of that came through that idea, and it happened to translate to masculinity. There's not that much music in his voice. He's trying to control the voice, trying to control his body. It's a deep fear of being revealed at any point for who he is. So why not just contain it? And it's interesting how that tended to bleed over into masculinity as an idea in general. Don't talk that way. Make declarative sentences. Be aggressive. Don't use your hands. Walk a certain way. I think no matter if you are gay, straight, bi, transsexual, questioning, there is always a comparison to others. That is, how should I walk, and is my walk the right one? And that seemed to be at the core of it, really.
So, and one of the most interesting things about this is how sympathetic, I ended up feeling just as much sympathy for Eric as I did for Taylor. It was just, it blew me away that I was like so invested in this. What were there any additional what additional steps did you take to show that, to try to harness that sympathy from the words on the page? What did you bring forward for that?
Totally, and I'm so glad to hear that. That's exactly what you want as an actor, is to have people, feel for the villain in some way, shape, or form, quote unquote villain, if there is one in the show, and they never treat him as such. But I talked to Wade Davis, who is ahead of You Can Play Sports, which is a wonderful organization. He does amazing work, helping other teenagers come out. If they aren't, or just even talking to them, maybe not necessarily about coming out, but how to exist within a sports arena if they are a gay member, gay or questioning. And he goes and visits with them, and I talked to him pretty extensively, and he ends up having a part on the show in episode 5, I believe, or 6. That's what it is. Episode 6 he does, and he just taught me so much about these deep struggles, and he made some national examples as well, but about all of a sudden the moment that no one wants to come out, because the moment you do that, they do, it's I don't want to take showers with them, and all of a sudden excluded from the team, and that just was, man, I just felt so much sympathy for that. I was going, that's just incredibly difficult. I know what that's like. In some way, shape, or form. And I also, anytime I get a script, especially the nuance of good and bad is so good with the writing from this team, from John Ridley. It's my goal for almost every scene was to put as much love as possible, and the need for love as one of the main things for every scene. And then that is the core, and then piling things on top of it. So that was hard to see. And I'm so glad that it translated in some way. And because he does, at the end of the day, wants love so desperately that he's pushing it away every chance he can get. Yeah.
That's so totally true, and it's actually really true of American crime generally. What John Ridley does so perfectly is subvert perspectives and twist things like halfway through the season. He did it in season 1. He did it again in season 2, where by the end of it, everybody has really changed in some way, and we look at them in a very different way. And we certainly do that with Eric. He becomes so sympathetic as a character because we feel for him. We feel his pain, and we do that, I think, through a lot of the way the scenes are very much focused on the actors' faces. And I was able to talk this through with Connor a few weeks ago, and I'll do the same with you now, Did you find that refreshing? I mean, you're relatively new to the business compared to some of the others like Felicity Huffman and so forth. But did you like having to play scenes where, for example, the camera could be on your face for 5 minutes and you're not saying anything at all? Talk us through that particular dynamic.
Yeah, we call it the American crime close-up, like right here. Yes, it's like nostrils up.
Like some sort of Robert Altman movie.
Yeah. Just, right in there. And I guess, I'm not really one of the actors who's like, trying to find out what exactly is happening. I mean, I am aware of what's what, but you're not aware of what lens they have on and how deep it is. I'm trying to be aware. Okay, it's a close-up, so be a little bit more aware of how much movement, whatever. But yeah, that one didn't really enter my mind. It wasn't until I was watching it or watching a few episodes that I was like, oh man, that's where they did that scene. I was like, oh my god, it's shocking. It's crazy to me. But and I think it really works well for the show because you do end up getting, as you said, a level playing field by getting close up. You are automatically dropped in with the character. You're in their point of view, in their headspace, and that can be a tool that the show uses as well. To make sure that you are in line with their thinking, and then you get out of it, a scene later, and you're going, oh man, that thinking is completely out of context. Yeah, so in terms of the actual close-up, I have no idea, but that it was really fun in a way to know that you're always listening. It's always the focus of the show is on listening on so many levels. It's not just some Hollywood techniques that we are definitely more leading towards, where when you are on camera, it's on you, and when you're not, it's not on you. There's there's kind of this old thing where if it's your line, you start acting, which hopefully you don't do. But it's funny, going from like a comedy space or a multi-cam space, you end up doing that. You end up training to do that because you've got to get it in on your line. But from the very get-go, I understood from episode 1. I was like, oh, this is like theater. It is going to be always, especially after watching the first season. There's whole scenes about listening that are just a character taking in information, and that stands in for the audience as well.
So, I do have to ask a question about that season finale. I know it was very ambiguous. What do you think Eric got in that car?
I'm gonna have to. Oh, Charles. You're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to. I can't say. It was. I will say this though. On the day, I thought I knew. If you're talking about the car specifically, I thought I knew when I got there. I had made a decision. I was like, yeah, got it. This is what he's going to do, of course. Then I got there, and that changed completely. What I will say it changed too, but it's interesting as one of the beautiful parts of the show is like, you as an actor get to discover it on the day, and it was funny the choice I had made when I got there, how it was revealed to me how that choice was made, and I was like, oh, right, yeah, this is what he would do. And who knows? I can't say. I gotta keep my mouth shut on that one. And I think it benefits everyone for that reason. Just so you can make a decision. I'm curious. What did you guys think?
Oh, I'm in the same boat as you. I like the ambiguity. I just loved it. Just like season 1 with Richard Cabral crying in the car. It was just so great to just be able to end it like that and just let you ponder it for. And Charlie and I are still thinking about it. And that's right. What do you think, Charlie?
I kind of think that he turns away. I kind of think I don't know whether that's what I want to think, or I do kind of think that maybe he doesn't go back home, but he doesn't get in that car.
Right.
Because the scene that I gotta say just stuck with me that whole season was the scene with you and the guy in the van when you meet for the hookup, and that all being shot in one take, and the camera just pulls out, and you just fall, just falling out of the car and then walking away. It was so. I had to watch that. I had to watch that scene like 4 times or something like that because I thought it was so amazing.
It was.
It was so amazing.
It's great.
Oh, yeah.
Talk
And
us
they
through
just
that.
did a good job with that.
Wow. Well, there you go. Um, the other the other amazing highlight for you, Joey, was obviously when Eric defiantly comes out as gay midway through the season after the suicide attempt. You're in the hospital. It's really touching. That's when a lot of the family stuff starts to come out, especially with his mum and his dad. And that's really heavy stuff to do for a young actor. What went into the preparation for that? And did you feel that was it challenging for you to do that?
Yeah, it was challenging on the day for sure. Just to stay in the headspace, I think, which I don't always do. But that one seemed necessary. I mean, I feel like in in certain ways, other scenes were just as difficult. The scene with his dad in about episode 8, I think it is, where he's confronting his dad and saying, "I didn't rape him," and finally really standing up for himself. What he thinks or what he wants people to believe, it's up to you. But it's all those scenes were difficult. But to be honest, there's such a beautiful environment on set where it's so supportive, will allow you to have your time. And that was one of those days that you really do hope. I really do hope for as an actor, where it kind of just falls in and it's going, okay, it's going, and now I just have to trust it, and it's moving. But I was reading a lot of material about what it is like to be contemplating suicide. I read a lot of suicide material, and watching. What I actually did a lot of was watching these YouTube videos that are out now, where kids are standing in front of YouTube, in front of the entire world, and posting a video of them coming out. And I found it so, it's one thing to come out to your family, which is also equally brave, but to say it in front of so many was deeply moving. And a couple of them had even filmed themselves talking to their parents. And I was so deeply moved. I was watching those on set. I was watching those before that day leading up to that night of shooting, and watching those and crying because I was so moved by the bravery of it and how much pain is in that moment and how much opportunity there is on the other side. And so that I just connected with deeply.
So one of the interesting things that you brought up is that we never see you and Connor on screen actually share the screen together, but you're very very much linked. You're very much linked, and I was looking at your Twitter feed earlier, and it seems like you and Connor actually are quite chummy. Actually, I'm just like, what's it like to go between?
Good word for it.
I mean,
Yeah, what is it like to go between? Okay, we're playing and I know you're actors and everything, but to go from that dynamic to, oh yeah, we're just hanging out and whatever.
Well, Connor and I roomed together in Austin for the entire duration of those 4.5 months, and it was such an interesting experience because he has a completely different, scenes, and we help each other run things and whatever. But I think it would have been more difficult had we had scenes together where we're trying to cut each other's throats and then try and hang out after. But at the time there was none of that, and it was just so supportive and wonderful. And yeah, I count him as a really great friend. And even though we have one phone call together, which was live, was not a pre-recorded thing, or they love to do that stuff live if possible. So I was on set in another part of the stage while Connor was on the phone before my character calls him to get beat up, and we just we're having a ball. I think it was it would have been dangerous had we had more, I think.
yeah, thank God for that. So we'll probably start to wrap this up shortly, but I do want to know what has American Crime done for your career? It's an obvious answer, but surely you're so much more well known. But what do you think it's done for your career?
Oh man, if more than anything, it's been such a transformative experience. I learned a lot while on that set. It's just there's just the quality of material, what John and Michael are holding you up to, having scenes with people like Tim Hutton and Felicity Huffman, it's that for me is the most important and most beautiful thing I'll take away from this experience. I'm deeply grateful for that. And in terms of sort of broader career strokes, I think it helps that, you know, I used to be on comedies, and so I think it helps in that way where, you know, they can show me in a different light, which is wonderful. And I hope it opens up more opportunities down the road, and just trying to find that next project that really is the next piece of meat to bite into, and has a great character. And, you know, hopefully American Crime is sort of that thing that I can point to and say this is something that I'd like to continue on in this direction. So for sure, I'm deeply happy with the experience.
Charlie, final question?
Absolutely, no, I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah. We know that there's a third season coming, so I know it's early days. The writers are probably working out what it's going to be all about. We hope to see you on that. And if you obviously if you get the offer, I'm sure you'll run towards it. Maybe we'll see you on American Crime again.
Oh, I hope so, and I thank you guys so much. It's been such a blast. I'll be hoping for season 3 as well, but wherever they are, I will support them, whether that includes me or not. They are just so talented. I love the show.
Thanks, mate. Have a really great summer, and hopefully we'll see you at the Emmys.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. This has been a blast.